to this computer. Welcome to the next edition of Own Your Unforgettable Story. I'm Steve Garvin, the story architect, and I am joined today, as always, by my lovely assistant, co-host, Wunderbar.
Keep them coming. I won't stop you.
Partner extraordinaire, Yael Johnson. How are you, Yael?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I love the introduction. Thank you.
Excellent. So today we are talking about the director. And before we started the recording, you were sharing with me your experience in getting your head around what the director's role really is.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share that with our audience and tell us?
Sure. Well, in preparation for today's episode, we talked a little bit about it the other day. And for some reason that I guess defining the role is really what I was having trouble wrapping my head around until I thought of how it incorporates into the other three that we've already done. So we talked about,
yes.
So we talked about the first one. The first one we did was the playwright. So as you said in the introduction thing, the little thing you wrote, I love the story theater that you put on there. I wish we would have thought of that at the beginning of this, because it's really what it is. I think I've mentioned before that I look at life itself is a game. This is all a game. It's all a game we're playing, and once you know how to play the game, it becomes a lot more fun.
Yes.
So calling it story theater it just sounds like it's just fun. Anyway, so the playwright is the one who is that's when you're wearing the playwright hat, is when you are writing your story. Those are your thoughts. That's what you're thinking about. Those are your beliefs. Those are the things that I myself as a life coach, those are the things that I work on with you, as far as what kind of story are you writing. If you don't like the story you've written so far, that's okay. My whole point is to make peace with the story you've written so far. And okay, you can't change what's already happened, but what does it have to do with today? So sometimes those pieces of the stories are what's holding us back from moving on.
Sure.
So anyway, so that's why I love what we're doing here, as far as understanding how important your story is, the way you tell it, the energy you're putting out into the universe, blah, blah, blah. So that's about the playwright. And then after that, we did what's the promoter next?
Performer, I believe.
The performer was next. The performer is that part. You get to live everything that you're writing. Everything that you are thinking about, everything that you as the playwright have put into place, you get to live it. Now it's up to you. How did you write it? Is it exciting what you wrote? And and you're having a good time. Like personally, right now, I'm having a great time with what I've written. But there once was a time when I wasn't too thrilled about it. At that point, I was, I had no idea that I had any control over anything. I kind of coasted through life on autopilot, and I was in my own head at the same time as doing everything I can to stay out of my head. And by that, I mean, I was in my head so much that I couldn't see what was going on around me, because it was all, how is everything affecting me? It was, oh, poor me. Everything's happening to me. All these things happen to me. So I was in my own head as far as that goes. But at the same time, I was doing everything I can to stay out of my own head because it was a scary place for me. So I would,
Dangerous territory.
yeah, I was always around other people. I always had the TV going. I always had, I was always, shoveling food in my mouth, or I had some bad, I'd smoke, I'd drink, for a while I was, doing a lot of both,
Mm.
that kind of stuff. I was in unhealthy relationships, all this kind of stuff that I didn't want to be in my own head. I wanted to be anywhere else. So I'd butt into other people's lives. I'd like wander into other people's stories. And I'd get all
Let me in
involved in
yours.
their
Mine is
business.
scary.
Right. And I'd get all involved in their business. Then I don't have to deal with mine.
Mm.
So anyway, so that's the performer. And then the third one is the promoter. And that is, I used to, now I love showing off my life. I get very excited. I get very excited. Ken's actually a lot better about it than I am, as far as posting pictures and stuff like that. I write a lot, as you know,
Mm.
but he's really good about taking pictures and sharing the moments and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons the universe brought us together, because he's really good about that stuff. And I love to do that stuff. I just never remember to take the
Mm.
pictures.
Sure. That's awesome.
I'm busy living my life,
Yes.
is the way I've always seen it. So, but I'm getting better.
You need a good camera person to catch
Right.
the
Well,
moments.
so now I have a husband who is good for that, that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
So
Which brings us,
as the director, which brings us to today. Thank you. Now I will shut up so you can go ahead with the next part.
well, what I really appreciate the recap that you gave of the other roles.
Mm-hmm.
And while you were giving that recap, I was thinking at certain points, like when you're talking about being all in your head and, or in other people's businesses or whatever. And yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Although for me, I don't know that I was so much in other people's business. I just wanted everybody out of my business. Just leave me alone.
Uh-huh.
I'll go find some cave to hide in, and the world can fall apart around me. I just don't want to know about it.
Oh, I was afraid of the world falling apart. Without me holding it together, the whole world is going to fall apart.
Okay.
So, so I had to hold the world together.
Okay. So you were the glue holding it all together.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. It was all my job. Everything was my job. If everybody around me was miserable, it was my job to fix it.
I can relate to that. I had a lot of that growing up in my family. Was okay, Steve is the responsible one, Steve is the smart one, Steve is the whatever.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna move at least 1,000 miles away just so I can escape
that's what
all
I did
that
too.
responsibility.
Yep. So I started weaning out of the responsibility before that, but I feel like that was the clincher, was to physically get away.
Mm-hmm.
I started taking ownership of myself before that, probably like a couple years before that, where I started being more conscientious of my time, who I'm hanging out with, that kind of stuff. I stopped hanging out with people who were just, always talking about the weather or always just bitching about life, that kind of stuff. I still hung out.
And we are frozen. I don't know what happened on Yael's side. I was expecting it to be frozen on my side. So there we go. Hopefully Yael will be back shortly. And she is not fighting with the internet demons. But to go back with the idea of the director and what is the director's role? As we were talking about this, I was thinking that one of the challenges with the director role is to get so much in other people's business, because the director sits in the director's chair. The director sits in a place where the others can be seen, but we don't really want to micromanage their business. We want to let them do what they do best. So the playwright does what the playwright does best, the promoter does what the promoter does best, and the performer does what the performer does best. And the playwright instead, no, the director instead holds all the pieces together. They have their eye on the ball. They have their eye on what is happening and figure out how to have the production, the story that they are in charge of creating, work in a way that helps everyone to be at their best. So the playwright can focus on what the playwright does. The performer can focus on what the performer does best, and the promoter can focus on what they do best. And it's really a matter of being conscious of what the design is. What are we trying to accomplish? What is a story that we're trying to tell? How are we going from a place of disappointment to a place of delight? It is a matter of looking at what we're creating. And I'm really missing having Yael on the line. I am thinking that I am going to take a break and go back to see if I can find her. Anyway, hope you are resonating with this idea of the director, and stay tuned. We'll be right back. So the universe likes to play its own role in the story theater.
So that was a lot of fun. Sorry for the interruption. So yes, I agree. The universe definitely likes to. I started that new group, The Universe Speaks. This is why.
The universe is speaking, calling you.
Oh my God. So the way I see it is this is the universe helping us make our point. Absolutely. As to the importance of how you tell your story.
I'm curious as to what your perspective is on that. I know what my experience was.
Well, I guess my point to that is that the difference between me then and me now. Me then, I would have seen it as the universe is saying this is just not meant to be. That we should just stop. We should just, like, the universe just keeps screwing with us, and stuff keeps happening. It's bad luck and stuff like that.
Your universe is conspiring against us rather than for
exactly And actually, this is perfect. Like you said, I agree with you. This is perfect because what we were just talking about, where what I was saying before, I was the victim of my life, whereas now I'm I get to decide. I'm the playwright, damn it. I'm the playwright. I'm deciding how this goes.
Absolutely.
So I could not realize my role as a playwright and just think that it's all, like you said, it's sabotage. It's, a conspiracy. And I could just stop this and give up on this whole podcast thing, and maybe this whole entrepreneurial thing, and maybe, all these things that could go wrong.
You totally cycle downwards.
Exactly.
In a terrible downward spiral.
Exactly. The momentum is just amazing how that builds up so quickly. You start on one, and then it'll screw with you, and you'll fall down the rabbit hole, and then everything just falls apart. Because then at that point you believe that your luck is, if you have any luck at all, it's bad luck.
Yes. So stepping out to see the director's role, here's what I was thinking while one, I was wondering if it was my internet connection as well.
Okay.
And then when you were gone, first of all, it was kind of a crappy connection, and then it was no connection. You were just totally
Mhm.
gone. And I went on for a few minutes talking about the director's role to some degree. I'm
Okay.
like,
Well, I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to see it.
I don't want to just keep doing this. One
I
of
appreciate the way you put it, that it's more fun when I'm on. Thank you.
it is more fun when you're on. And I think that's one of the things that's cool about the director's role is that they get to pull the people together and
Yep.
see how can we get these different people from different. The way that I'm talking about it now is it's as if each of these roles has their own land. They have their own castle. They have their own perspective and their own rules and worldview and so forth.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Which
That is a good point.
Which can be challenging. You know, it's like, okay, well, if you don't see things my way, then we're just going to butt heads. But the director steps in and says, okay, you know, what you were saying as a playwright is you're saying, and what you were saying as the performer, let's see if we can find a happy medium where the performer and the playwright are 1 + 1 = 3, not 1 + 1 = World War III.
Right. So as we were just about to talk about like what the director role is. The way I see it is the director role is the one that is in charge of the logistics, the logical stuff. More based on facts. The one that's in charge of the bookkeeping, the one that's in charge of the making phone calls and the administrative stuff that we do in our lives day to day. I mean, you got to make doctor's visits, you got to get to the doctor's visits, you have to plan the route, you have to, all that kind of stuff. That's the director role. The director role is the one that's coordinating everything and putting everything together, and like you said, putting the pieces together.
So before you go too far down that road,
rabbit hole that's okay.
I actually think of that, and maybe we need to have 5 roles here, because I think that more is the producer's role, where they're focused more on the
another P. Okay.
Yes, another P. Where they're focused more on the business side of things, and the director is more focused on how do we pull all these creative elements together so that we get the results that we want to have.
Okay.
Both of which are really important. And maybe we just, in my model, I've been thinking I wanted to keep it simple and keep it to 4, but maybe there are 5, because
I don't know very much about the theater, and as far as like what, I don't know the difference between the director's role and the producer's role. As far as, when I'm watching a movie, I don't know what the director did and what the producer did. What's the difference? Whose job is what?
Sure. So maybe one way to look at that, and one of the things that I talked about while you were trying to get your
while I was away,
while the universe was calling you.
It was giving you time to think about these things and to
talk
about these things.
Is that the director has the director's chair, and the director's chair is right there on the set.
Okay.
Interacting with the different cast members and the stage and all that kind of thing.
Right.
Trying to get the people to work together and the different creative elements to manifest what it is that they want to create. So the director's in that director's chair, the producer is back in the office, either in the trailer or back in.
So I just thought of the difference.
Okay.
That helped me. So I just thought of the difference. So the director acts as the liaison between you and everyone who's directly involved. Whereas the producer handles more people who are indirectly involved, such as vendors, or service providers,
or the people that are providing the finances for the
right. service providers or vendors or whatever.
Sure. That's a really
Okay,
good
so
way to look at it.
the producer would handle the marketing as far as talking to the potential clients, whereas the director talks to the current clients
Sure.
because they are more directly, because you're already linked, you're already involved in their story, and they're involved in your story. That's a more direct route, whereas in marketing you're still talking to the it's a little more abstract. The relationship is still a little more abstract. You're still working on the relationship.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Well, I like the way you put it, that the director's role is one in the director's chair on the set with those people who are directly involved in the story that is being portrayed on the stage, right? Whether
Right.
that stage is a theater, like a literal theater, or the theater of life, or whatever.
Right.
And the producer's role is to be backstage. They don't really get, they're not screen time. Neither will,
Right.
honestly, neither the director nor the producer get much screen time unless they do a cameo or something.
So the director talks to, okay, talking about a film set. If you're on a film set, the director is talking to the actors and coordinating the actors and putting people in their places and making sure that, things are happening the way they're supposed to be happening. The film crew is actually recording what they're supposed to be recording, and the actors are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, playing the roles properly, whatever.
Sure.
That's the director's role, whereas the producer is the one who makes sure that they've got the materials, makes sure that they've got supplies, makes sure that they've got they're the one that scouts out the location. They're the one that handles the things that are, like, the director wouldn't scout out the location because there aren't any people directly involved yet. That would be the producer's role.
Possibly.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know that it normally works like that, but it
Okay. I mean, that's how I'm like differentiating it in my head.
So the way I'm thinking about it is basically anything that gets, if we're talking about a movie, anything that gets portrayed on the screen, which would include the location.
Oh, so the director does have input on that. Does have
Right.
to have some input on that. Okay, that's true.
Because they're setting the stage. They're saying, okay, this is what we want to have happen. The
Right.
producer's back in the.
His job is to land that location.
Right, to land
The director
location,
says that's perfect. The producer's job is to find out who they need to get the permits from, or, do that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So everything that happens behind the screen,
Okay,
so to speak, is the producer's role, and everything that happens on the screen.
Right. So the whole point of all this is, upon thinking about all this, I was thinking about people who I've worked with, people who I've been friends with, people who I've, along my journey, and the common denominators. And I hope this doesn't come across sounding bad. It's not intended that way. But a lot of people I know struggle with money, for example. Okay. They either live paycheck to paycheck, or sometimes they don't even have a paycheck. Sometimes they're just, figuring things out as things come along, or whatever, or relying on other people, or that kind of stuff. The people that are in those situations, talking about our story theater, those people, as a rule, this is not, I can't see, I don't know everybody in that place in their life or whatever, but as a rule, of the people that I can think of, they don't track their finances. They don't wear that producer's hat very often. They avoid wearing that hat. They don't track their finances. They don't, they don't get around to calling the doctor, making doctor's appointments. They don't get, maybe job hunting becomes such a chore because it's overwhelming.
Mm,
Especially nowadays, it's not like you can just, walk in and turn in an application. Nowadays, you got to go online and you got to organize who you've already applied with and who you haven't. And what did you
right.
tell these people? What'd you tell those people? It's not, it's the internet makes it easier in some ways, but so much harder in other ways.
Absolutely. Yes.
So the people that I can think of who struggle in that sense, they don't wear the producer hat or the director's hat, even, because they don't even realize that they can. They don't realize
Mhm.
that they have any influence to play the director.
Right.
They
And
think
so
that
go ahead.
so they think that they don't even, it doesn't even occur to them that they have any role, that there is a director role. They just kind of go with what everybody else says.
Right. And so they're playing their part, not realizing that they're playing their part.
Exactly. Right. So that's the whole point, is that in this scenario, they don't realize all the different hats that they could be wearing. I hate to use the word should be wearing. I hate using the word should.
Sure. So we won't be doing any
Um,
shoulding today.
right.
We won't
So,
should on the
you could
screen.
should all over yourself, but
Yes.
so but anyway, so that's how I see the director's role and the producer's role. So I guess we kind of rolled both of those into one episode.
We did. Well, we started out with one role and we ended up with two roles. So
Right.
we have a net positive, right?
There you go. That's true. So yeah, we thought we were doing 4 episodes. 4 episodes, 4 roles, but we're doing 4 episodes, 5 roles.
And perhaps we'll talk more about those two roles at some other point.
Okay.
But
Speaking of, are we doing a wrap up? Are we doing a wrap up next time, or are we doing something else next time? I'm really enjoying the series. I'm enjoying the playing in the theater.
well, let's have the different roles meet together and see what is
Absolutely.
coming next.
Okay.
Okay. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this production by Yael Johnson, Steve Garvin, and the Universe. It is always an entertaining story for at least us in the story theater. And we hope that you are enjoying the production as well, and that as you take on these different roles, that it keeps getting richer and brighter. Until our, you have something to
Well,
add?
I was just gonna say I'm gonna try and avoid the word homework, but as far as like food for thought.
Yes.
Food for thought, something on how to use what you heard today in your own life is think about, like, what roles are you playing? What roles are you not playing? Try to fit those, try to incorporate this story into your own life.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Yael. Thank you, everybody. Until our stories meet again, be the bright light in someone's dark night.